Welcome. Do you have a shit story to tell? I do. I have a story about William Shatner and how he called me a bullshit artist. Yeah, let's talk some shit about Shatner. So, right, what if I was to tell you that William Shatner called bullshit on me? And I wear it as a badge of honor. The great Captain Kirk, Denny Crane, on and on. It was really cool in many ways, but at the time, of course, I gotta admit, it was a little weird, more than a little weird. So, set the stage. This is the mid 90s. This is 1994. And about a year before, I had sold my first script, my first Hollywood script to Star Trek The Next Generation. Episode got produced, Homeward, starring the great Paul Sorvino as Nikolai Rozhenko, Worf's foster brother. Everything was cool. It was great, right? And so then I followed this up with a second script, but for Deep Space Nine. I had written this at college, mostly at college. And so I submitted it, and it sold. Great. Now Deep Space Nine, right? So I said to myself, you know what? Will, you're getting a little bit too serious here, and you really should start thinking about getting representation, getting an agent. Now, that was the really cool thing about Star Trek at the time. Michael Piller had established the non-agent script submission policy. So anybody could submit a script. It had to be a 55 to 65 page standard teleplay, as long as you had a proper release form. So you had to call up or write, send a SASE, self-addressed stamped envelope. Those were the days. It wasn't digital. There were computers, but we weren't using them for everything. Anyway, bottom line is that I got all that stuff and sold my script. And so I was like, I gotta get an agent now, though. I mean, Michael Piller doing that was great. And, but most shows, in fact, no other show that I was aware of back then or now certainly will accept stuff without an agent. So I started making, sort of like a little list, little media agent list. And William Morris, at the time, still is one of the bigger agencies. I think they were absorbed by ICM or merged, but they were one of the biggest. So I started to, feel out people on my list, and I called an agent. Started talking to him. His name is Glenn. That's all I'll say. The only person I will truly identify as William Shatner coming up. So he was pretty cool to me, but he's like, let me check out your story or something. I'm like, oh, sure. He's like, I'm going to call my buddy who's William Shatner's agent. And I'm like, wow, there you go. Perfect. Star Trek, right? So he said, okay, I'll get back to you. So he got back to me about an hour or two later, and he's like, well, I just spoke to Carmine. Again, I can't even remember the guy's last name. I guess you could look it up. And he said, Carmine told me that he called Bill. He called Bill, and he said that this guy, me, was a bullshit artist, that he's bullshitting you. And I'm like, you pause. I mean, I was still in college. I was just kind of, leaving college at the time, and I was like, and this is my way to maybe get a Hollywood rep here finally. And I'm like, and then William Shatner called me a bullshit artist. I was like, whoa. And I'm like, I think I pretty much, I said, you know what, Glenn? I'm not in the habit of concocting cock and bull stories. I thought that sounded pretty cool. And he's like, oh. I said, you want me to fax you over my contract and my check? Is that what it takes? And then you can shut up the captain? You can shut up Captain Kirk? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, oh, no problem. And I did. Back then, faxing was a big thing. I haven't faxed something in, God, I don't know how fucking long, So that's basically my story. I met Shatner then. I guess it was 5 or 6 years later at a con. I mean, he's just signing autographs and just a quick, here's your autograph. Because they're instructed, or you're instructed, don't talk to them. Don't talk to the biggies like Nimoy or Shatner. They'll sign your autograph. That's about it. The dude who played, what was it done, Enterprise, the trip. He was cool. He signed my DVD and he was talking, and that was, so Robert Picardo kind of talked. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. William Shatner called me a bullshit artist, and I'll tell you, again, I feel honored that the great William Shatner even acknowledged me, even though he doesn't know who the hell I am, I'm sure, but I was a BS artist to William Shatner until I proved that I was not. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. Tell me if you had run-ins with famous people. Maybe they called you jackasses, jerks, bullshit artists. I don't know. We can compare stories. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you're subscribing. See you soon.
Will, the sci-fi guy, is highly illogical.